Well, from That's Amore to Viva Mexico, we are now joined by Lucinda Hutson, and thanks so much for being back on Central Texas Gardener,
Oh, it's so good to be with you again. It's been too long.
And we are here, speaking of Viva, to celebrate the release of your new book, Viva Tequila.
Yes.
And this is very exciting for me. I will admit to being a fan of all things tequila, whether it's the plants, the agaves, or the final product.
Yes.
And the book is beautiful, filled with history, recipes, lots of things that people can really dive into.
And maybe wouldn't think of the subtitle of the book is Cocktails, Cooking, and Other Agave Adventures.
Right.
And so in this book, I'm really telling the stories of what it was like 30 years ago to travel alone, most of the time on a bus, into these little villages.
Right.
So it's really, I'm so excited that I get to tell those stories and preserve heritage, culture, traditions, drinks.
Right.
You know, it's really fun.
And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that tequila comes from a long history of you know, drink traditions within Mexican culture,
Yes.
and that it is as distinctive in its own way as the great wine culture is in, say, a country like France.
Oh, you bet. And the thing about this book, I get into the three agave spirits, pulque, mezcal, and tequila. So we're really talking of so many, you know, since the ancient Aztecs who first drank pulque.
Right.
And pulque comes from a different species of agave where they actually scrape out the heart of the living plant. And this agua miel, this honey water, comes up that is then only fermented and becomes a mild-like beer.
Right.
But tequila comes from only one species, the blue agave.
Right.
And its sister drinks, these are distilled spirits, mezcal, comes from 28 different types of mezcal, or mezcal meaning the plant, mezcal and maguey and agave are synonymous.
Right.
So, you know, we've had this tradition going, and it's interesting because they say that the Spanish brought the art of distillation from the Moors, but there's new evidence that the pre-Hispanics were distilling in Mexico, which is really exciting.
And there's so many fun facts associated with this. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that in ancient Aztec culture, their religion forbade people to drink until they got to be older, and then it required them to drink.
Well, there were certain calendar days. I mean, it is so mystical and spiritual, but then nursing mothers and children got to drink pulque because it was so highly nutritive. And there's been a demise of pulque, although it's coming back in style, but it was replaced by soda pop and cheap beer and aguardiente. So we're missing a real nutritive value from pulque. But all the young people in Mexico are starting to go back to their roots and wanting to drink things. Yes.
The kind of renaissance, if you will, of tequila has gotten everybody interested in this.
Yes, I think that that's really true. And many tequila aficionados are going back to mezcal because many think it's more natural and made from different species of agave and more flavor. And, you know, it has that smoky, wonderful flavor because the agaves used to make mezcal are usually baked underground in ovens like the Indians used to do, whereas tequila, the heart of the agave here, is baked in above ground ovens.
Right. So that's something that a lot of people don't understand is that with both the mezcal and the tequila, they would remove the foliage from the agave, and it comes down to this, what you call the piña, which looks like a pine cone.
It looks like the pineapple on the top of this bottle.
Right, and then it's roasted.
Yes, and when they whack off those leaves with the machete so fast, and then it looks like a big pineapple, but it looks like a jicama. It's white and caustic inside. It'll break you out if you taste it, which I did. And then it's baked in the ovens, and what comes out of the oven resembles mushy sweet potatoes drenched in molasses. It is so sweet. This transformation is
Sounds pretty
amazing. And then they crush it, ferment it, a lot of fibers, and then it's distilled into a clear white spirit.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
It is kind of amazing, just the process. And you think
Yes.
about how they came to that process over
Yes.
probably centuries,
Well, there was a story that lightning struck the plant, cooked the piña, the rodents or the farmer's wife tasted it and got a little high, and so that's how they decided, But it's like chocolate and vanilla. How did they ever figure that these pods needed to be fermented and to give us this gift of Mexico?
Right. I love all the folklore associated with it. I think it's really charming. There's some traditional things that you've brought along now. There's a flask there that has some writing on it. Tell me about that flask.
The flask is for after you've had a little bit too much, and it says, "Para mal de cruda, aquí está la cura." For a bad hangover, here's the cure. More.
More.
But I
Right.
also brought these cow horns, which I really love. This was the original shot glass because you couldn't put it down. And the international symbol of drinking is this, so you have to drink this down.
Right.
Although the premise of Viva Tequila is to sip and savor these magical spirits and not chug them down.
Right, and that's one of the things that Americans had gotten in their heads was that tequila was something to endure and to knock back and then bury the flavor if you could.
Yes.
And I think of
And
tequila
salt and lime.
and I think of tequila as a fine aperitif, something to have after dinner and sip on and linger over.
Well, it doesn't have to be after dinner. The other night we had a wonderful Mexican meal and sipped mezcal slowly through the meal. So I think that's the whole thing. These are craft spirits. It takes the agave 12 years to grow, whereas grapes and grain are harvested in one season. It takes this plant 12 years before it can even be harvested. So, it's quite a process. And how many spirits? We have 4 categories in tequila. We have blanco, unaged, reposado, lightly aged, añejo, deeper age, and extra añejo. So any of these spirits could be use silver in place of vodka or gin, the reposado to sip, the aged like, Scotch, cognac, or brandy. So there's just so much versatility and excitement for drinking and cooking with tequila.
Right. And just as in Europe, they're very particular about the appellation.
Yes.
And the same is true in tequila. It very specifically comes from a very specific region in Mexico, and there's a very strenuous certification process.
Yes, like cognac or champagne.
Right.
Mezcal can be produced legally, I guess I should say, in about 10 states, but about 18 states produce it. But tequila only comes from five states.
Right.
And there are strict rules and government regulation. But, as you know, what we're finding now, it seems to me, are more bottles than, beautiful. Some of them are pretty, not so beautiful, but lots of bottles.
Right.
And I worry about, I want to taste what's inside, not just see,
see
the bottles.
Right.
But think of with these 4 styles of tequila, like the silver tequila is great with fruits and salsas and gazpacho, and the reposado is great for chilies and soups and stews and sautés and flambés. And then you have the añejo, almost like a cognac for desserts, to sip in a snifter, but to use as a flavoring.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting.
I'm an añejo man
Are
myself.
you?
Yes.
And see, I love this silver, bright white spirit where you taste that agave, or the reposado, which is the most popular tequila in Mexico. But you're more of a brown spirit person, and
There you go.
Yeah.
And you've also brought this charming a little drink here, and tell us what this is.
Sangrita.
Okay.
And sangrita, if you're in Jalisco, the heartland of tequila, if you order a shot of tequila, the sangrita always comes to the table, whether you ask for it or not. And like so many drinks today, I think they've taken shortcuts and you get more of a Bloody Mary mix. But the traditional sangrita that I celebrate in my book is fresh orange juice, lime juice, pomegranate juice, and chili sauce.
Ooh,
no
that-
tomato in it.
that sounds
So it's the
good.
quintessential chaser. It piques every taste bud.
Right.
And so in Viva Tequila, I'm trying to preserve more of these wonderful traditional drinks, punches, fun ways in which the Mexicans drink their tequila with a lot of fresh fruit juice, chilies, things like that, as opposed to many of the mixology drinks today that have all these European liqueurs and syrups and this and that. I'm
Right.
trying to be a little more like the Mexicans drink their
Traditional.
tequila. Yes.
A little more traditional.
Yes.
And that's the focus of the book, is celebrating this really rich
Oh
culture
my gosh.
that has grown up around these plants and these particular drinks.
Yes.
And lots of recipes as well.
Yes, the book is very easily divided into 3 chapters. The first part's all about the plant, tequila, pulque, mezcal. Then there's the tequila cantina and the tequila cocina. So we have lots of drinks and food. And the recipes are kind of a fiesta in themselves. They're when you want to really treat people and do something fun and festive. These are fiesta recipes.
And tequila is an essential ingredient in many of these things.
And singing canciones, and I give
There are
hints.
a lot of songs about this.
Hints for music
Right.
and music to
Perfect.
play, and so and then the book is also peppered with dichos. For instance, salud, dinero y amor y bastante tiempo para gozarlos.
All right. Well, Lucinda, thank you so much for coming on and enlightening up the studio with us today. It's always a pleasure to visit with you. Congratulations. I know this is a labor of love. Viva
thank
Tequila.
you.
Coming up next is our friend Daphne.